Hi everyone, and welcome back to Lesson 6 of the New York School of Design's Intro to Digital Design. My name is Vidal Cyperly Valencia, and I'm a fashion designer here in New York City. Now, HSB, if I click HSB here, it's going to change this menu a little bit. The color picker looks pretty much the same for the most part. As you can see, it's a little bit different. This is a little bit more saturation to it. But HSB stands for hue, saturation, and brightness. Now, as you can see, the H here, standing for hue, if I make adjustments on this, is along sort of the continuum of this rainbow. And so if I push it all of these different ways, it's going to select different colors along the full color spectrum. Now, let's say I wanted to make this like a red. This section here allows me to adjust the saturation very similarly to how we did in when we made the adjustments to contrast and brightness on Photoshop. And so if I push it all the way down, it's completely desaturated. It's taken all of the saturation out of the color. Or it's taken all of the chroma, as you would say in color theory. It's taken all of the chroma out of the color. If I push it all the way to the right, it's maximizing the chroma, and it's making it as saturated of a color as it can be. So if I just say I want this kind of desaturated, not that much, but maybe something like that. This last tab, or this last slider bar here is brightness. And so if I push this, just like in Photoshop, if I push this all the way to the right, it's going to be super bright. This is maximum brightness. And if I push it all the way to the left, it is super dark, and this is the least amount of brightness because it is now at 0. And so utilizing either of these tools really kind of comes down in some ways to preference. I usually prefer to work within CMYK, but if you're talking about needing to adjust the saturation, or if a client you have or a supervisor is making a request that the color needs to look less saturated, it's super easy to just select the color that's in question, bring it over here to the color menu, drop it down to HSB, make sure that's what you got, and then just play with the saturation a little bit until it's looking like what is being expected. That's generally how I would utilize the HSB toolbar. CMYK, I would say, is a little bit more multi-purpose in terms of like pushing and adjusting sort of the fineness of your colors if you're creating a color card for yourself or for your own work or for your design aesthetic. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is saving these colors. And so we want to make sure we have our window with swatches. And so we're going to go to the drop-down menu. We're going to click Window. We're going to go all the way to Swatches. And you're going to see here that this pops up this little toolbar full of all of these colors. Now, this is sort of similar to how we made folders in our files for Photoshop. And so you can click down here, you can just click this button right here and it's called New Color Group. And we're going to say that this is the Lesson 6 colors. We click OK. It has now made my folder. If I hover over it here, it says Lesson 6 colors. Now, once I add a color down here, this is going to be saved in my folder. And so let's say I want to keep these 3 colors as our colors for Lesson 6. It's super easy. You can do a couple of different ways to do this, but you can simply drag the fill from this menu here for the right color and just drag it down into your swatch folder down here. And so now my Lesson 6 colors has this purple color. Or additionally, you can select an image, select the shape that has the color you like, and make sure you're clicking into the folder and click this new swatch button down here. And it's going to say, do you want to name this swatch? And we're going to name this salmon pink, let's say. It's going to say what color mode, it's going to color type, you can just keep it as process color. You can click it to add it to your library, which will just be in a separate area, but we're not going to get to that just yet. So we can click OK, and that is also going to save it into this folder, except for now it is going to have the name that I named it. So if I do that one more time, make sure I've selected my folder that I want it to go into, and I have my square selected with the right color. I click New Swatch. I'm just going to name this Steel Blue. I'm going to click OK. There's my new swatch, and it says the name right there. Now, if you want to save this, you can actually use this to create a color card and then port this into different softwares like InDesign or Photoshop, and you can then be working with all of the same colors based on your swatch palette. So to do so, now we're going to be adding this into our library. And so if we have our folder selected, we can click here. and we can click Save Swatches. So this will then load up, and once it does, it's going to show you where it wants to save. It's generally going to save into your Illustrator or Photoshop, in this case Illustrator, folder where it's going to keep the swatch menus. So we're going to save it as swatch files format, as it's the only one we're allowed to, and we're just going to keep the name up here the way it was because it's named after the folder you created. So we're just going to click Save, and it will take its moments to do so. But then, once we are working in Illustrator, if you were to open up a new Illustrator document, or if you were in Photoshop or a different software, you could go to your swatches, your swatch menu, go down here to this library button, and you can select what we call user-defined swatch menu, and you can just click that, and it's going to introduce it into the palette. And so here it is again down here. Of course, this is the same file, so it's already there. But if this were a fresh file or a different Illustrator file, you can send that folder that we saved within the Illustrator like saved folder, and either open that in Photoshop or open it in InDesign or send it to somebody else if you're working on a project together, and you can all be utilizing the same swatches that are all the same accuracy.